There is a reason you found this now. Not yesterday when you scrolled past something similar. Not tomorrow when you might have been ready. Right now. This exact moment. And if you think that's coincidence, you haven't yet understood what Carl Jung spent his entire life trying to show us. The universe doesn't speak in words. It speaks in timing. In the book that falls off the shelf. In the conversation you overhear at the exact moment you needed to hear it. In the restlessness that woke you at 3 in the morning. Jung had a word for this. He called it synchronicity. But it's more than meaningful coincidence. It's the universe's way of confirming that you're exactly where you need to be, even when everything feels uncertain. You've been feeling something, haven't you? A strange discomfort that has nothing to do with your circumstances. Maybe your life looks successful on paper, but inside you feel like you're wearing someone else's skin. Maybe you've been waking up with a sense of urgency you can't explain. Maybe the things that used to matter, the achievements, the routines, the relationships, suddenly feel hollow, like props in a play you never auditioned for. This isn't depression. This isn't a quarter-life or midlife crisis. This is something Jung understood deeply. He wrote in his personal journal that the psyche has its own intelligence, and it begins transforming us long before our conscious mind catches up. What you're feeling is not breakdown. It's breakthrough trying to happen. Have you noticed your dreams becoming more vivid, more strange? Have you caught yourself staring at nothing, feeling like you're remembering something you never learned? Have you felt drawn to ideas, people, or paths that make absolutely no logical sense? Your rational mind is confused. But something deeper in you recognizes what's happening. You're standing at a threshold. Jung called this the beginning of individuation, though that word makes it sound more clinical than it is. What it really means is this. You're being called to become who you actually are, not who you've been conditioned to be. And that process starts with a feeling of coming apart. The old self is dying. Not the physical you, but the constructed you. The personality you built to survive your childhood, to succeed in your career, to be accepted by your family and society. That version of you served its purpose. But it can't take you where you're going next. And here's what Jung discovered that changes everything. The psyche doesn't wait for your permission to evolve. It simply begins. And when it does, it sends signals. Restlessness, dissatisfaction, strange dreams, synchronicities that feel too precise to ignore. These aren't random. They're communications from a deeper intelligence within you, one that Jung spent decades studying and learning to trust. In his own life, Jung experienced this forcefully. At the peak of his career, respected worldwide, everything seemingly perfect, he began to fall apart. He heard voices. He saw visions. He thought he was going insane. But instead of medicating it away or ignoring it, he did something radical. He listened. He wrote down what the voices said. He painted the images he saw. He engaged with the chaos instead of running from it. And what he discovered became the foundation of everything he would teach. That the psyche has layers. That beneath our everyday consciousness is something vast, something ancient, something that knows the way forward, even when we're completely lost. He called it the unconscious. But it's not just a garbage dump for repressed memories. It's a living intelligence guiding us toward wholeness. This is why you're here now. Something in you recognizes this moment as significant. You might not be able to articulate why, but you feel it. That feeling is your psyche speaking. And if you've learned anything from Jung, it's this: when the psyche speaks, you listen. Not with your mind, but with your whole being. The shift you're sensing is not happening outside you. It's not about changing jobs or relationships or locations, though. Those things might change as a result. The shift is internal. It's the moment when your inner frequency becomes incompatible with the life you've been living. And once that incompatibility reaches a certain point, everything must reorganize itself. You're not crazy. You're not broken. You're not falling behind. You're right on time. And the fact that you're watching this, that something drew you here, is the first confirmation that the universe is speaking to you through what Jung called synchronicity. This moment is not random. You were meant to receive this message before the transformation becomes too intense to navigate consciously. Because here's the truth, Jung discovered transformation without awareness feels like chaos. But transformation with awareness becomes initiation. It becomes a conscious death and rebirth. And that makes all the difference. So if you've been feeling like everything solid in your life is becoming liquid, if you've been sensing that something profound is approaching, if you've been experiencing that strange combination of terror and excitement, you're not imagining it. You're standing at the edge of what Jung called the most important journey a human can take, the journey toward your true self. And the universe chose you to see this now because awareness is the doorway. You just walk through it. To understand what's happening to you right now, you need to understand something Jung discovered about human psychology that most people never learn. We are not one self. We are many selves layered like an archaeological site. And most of us live our entire lives in the topmost layer, never knowing the depths below. The version of you that shows up to work, that answers when someone asks how you're doing, that navigates social situations, that's what Jung called the persona. It's the mask you wear. And here's what's crucial to understand. You didn't choose this mask consciously. You built it piece by piece starting in childhood, every time someone told you who you should be. Be polite. Be successful. Be strong. Don't cry. Don't be too loud. Don't want too much. Don't be different. And so you learned. You learned to hide the parts of yourself that didn't fit. You learned to perform a role. You became the good student, the responsible one, the caregiver, the achiever. And that persona got you here. It helped you survive. It helped you succeed, at least by society's standards. But lately, something's been happening. That mask has started to feel suffocating. You catch yourself in the mirror and think, who is that? You're in the middle of a conversation, saying all the right things, and suddenly you feel like you're watching yourself from outside your body. You're performing. And for the first time, you're aware that you're performing. This awareness, uncomfortable as it is the beginning of what Jung called a spiritual awakening. Not in a religious sense, but in a psychological one. You're waking up to the fact that the person you've been presenting to the world is not the totality of who you are. It's a costume. And underneath that costume is something raw, something real, something that's been waiting your entire life to be seen. When the persona starts cracking, most people panic. They try to reinforce it. They work harder, achieve more, seek more validation. Anything to avoid the uncomfortable truth that's emerging. But Jung discovered something remarkable. The cracking of the persona is not the problem. It's the solution. It's the psyche's way of saying you've outgrown this. It's time. But here's where it gets more complex and more interesting. Because beneath the persona is something Jung called the shadow. And this is where most people resist the transformation entirely. The shadow is everything you've rejected about yourself. Every emotion you labeled as bad. Every desire you judged as wrong. Every impulse you suppressed because it wasn't acceptable. All of it is still there, alive in the darkness of your unconscious waiting. Maybe you were taught that anger is dangerous, so you became the peaceful one. But that anger didn't disappear. It went into your shadow. Maybe you were told your sexuality was shameful, so you became the pure one. But that life force didn't vanish. It went into shadow. Maybe you were punished for being too much, too loud, too emotional, so you became small and controlled. But that bigness, that wildness, it's still there. And here's the thing about the shadow that Jung understood better than anyone. It doesn't stay hidden forever. The more you individuate, the more you grow toward your authentic self, and the more insistently your shadow demands to be seen and integrated. You'll know your shadow is rising when you start feeling emotions more intensely. When things that never bothered you before suddenly trigger something volcanic in you. When you meet people and feel immediate, irrational dislike. Jung taught that whatever we judge most harshly in others is usually a mirror of what we've rejected in ourselves. So the person who irritates you with their selfishness, that's your own unexpressed need to prioritize yourself. The person who triggers you with their confidence, that's your own suppressed power. The person who annoys you with their emotionality, that's your own denied feelings. This is where the universe message becomes clear. Every trigger, every strong reaction, every person who bothers you is actually a gift. They're showing you what's in your shadow waiting to be reclaimed. And reclaiming your shadow is not about becoming your worst impulses. It's about integrating the life force you've been denying. It's about becoming whole instead of fractured. Because when you reject parts of yourself, you also reject their gifts. You reject their energy. You reject their creativity. The angry part of you that you suppressed. That's also your power to set boundaries. The selfish part you denied. That's also your ability to honor your own needs. The dark part you judged, that's also your depth, your complexity, your full humanity. Jung went even deeper than this. He discovered that we're not just individual psyches floating alone in the universe. We're connected to something vast and ancient. He called it the collective unconscious. And this is where things get truly fascinating. The collective unconscious is like a shared psychological inheritance. It contains all the patterns, all the symbols, all the stories that humans have known since the beginning. That's why certain myths appear in every culture. Why certain symbols mean the same thing across continents and centuries. Why you can read a story from 3,000 years ago and feel like it's about your life. These universal patterns Jung called archetypes. The hero, the mother, the trickster, the wise old man. And when you're going through transformation, these archetypes become active in your psyche. You start living archetypal patterns without realizing it. Right now, you're living the hero's journey. You're being called from your ordinary world into unknown territory. You're resisting the call. You're meeting allies and enemies both outside and inside yourself. And eventually, you'll face your greatest fear, die to your old self, and be reborn. This isn't metaphor. This is psychological reality. Jung saw it happen in his patients over and over. He saw it in mythology, in dreams, in his own life. The psyche transforms through archetypal patterns. And right now, you're in the early stages of that transformation. That's why certain books find you at the perfect moment. Why certain movies hit you differently than they hit others. Why certain songs feel like they were written about your exact situation. It's not coincidence. It's the collective unconscious speaking to you through symbols and synchronicities that your conscious mind didn't arrange. In one famous Carl Jung interview, late in his life, he was asked if he believed in God. He paused for a long moment, then said something that shocked people. He said, "I don't believe, I know." What he meant was that through his work with the unconscious, through dreams and synchronicities and the patterns he'd witnessed, he'd experienced something beyond belief. He'd touched what he called the numinous, the sacred reality that underlies ordinary existence. And this is what's available to you now. Not belief, but direct experience. The shift you're feeling is the numinous breaking through into your ordinary consciousness. It's the universe showing you that there's more to reality than the material world you can touch and measure. You've probably had moments like this before. Times when you felt overwhelmed by beauty. Times when you experienced profound connection. Times when something inexplicable happened and you felt touched by something greater than yourself. Those weren't flukes. Those were glimpses through the veil. And now, as you individuate, that veil is getting thinner. Carl Jung's synchronicity becomes more frequent the more aligned you become with your true self, because synchronicity is the universe's way of confirming that you're on the right path. When the outer world starts mirroring your inner transformation, when coincidences multiply, when the right people and opportunities appear at the perfect time, you're not getting lucky. You're getting aligned. This is what Jung devoted his life to understanding and teaching. That we're not separate from the universe. We're expressions of it. And when we align with our deepest nature, when we stop performing and start being, the universe responds. Not because it's granting wishes, but because we're finally matching its frequency. The shift you're experiencing is your psyche preparing you for this alignment. Everything that's falling away, everything that's feeling wrong, everything that's making you uncomfortable is actually the universe clearing the path for you to step into your truth. But to do that, you have to be willing to go deeper. You have to be willing to face what Jung called the confrontation with the unconscious. And that's where most people turn back. Because the confrontation is not gentle. It demands everything. Before we dive deeper, if this resonates with your soul's journey, please hit that like button and subscribe for more transformational content. Your support helps this message reach other souls who need to hear it. There's a stage in transformation that Jung warned about that every wisdom tradition prepares initiates for, but that still catches people completely off guard when it happens to them. He called it the confrontation with the unconscious. You might call it the dark night of the soul, or simply the moment when everything falls apart. If you're in this stage right now, let me tell you something that might be the only thing that keeps you going. You're not losing your mind. You're finding it. Jung himself went through this, and what happened to him, what he discovered in the darkness, changed the entire field of psychology. In 1913, at the height of his career, Jung began having visions. He saw Europe drowning in blood months before World War I started. He heard voices. He saw figures that weren't there. He wrote conversations with entities from his unconscious. His colleagues thought he was having a psychotic break. He thought he might be too. But instead of running from it, he did something that required enormous courage. He turned toward it. He wrote everything down. He engaged with the figures he saw. He asked them questions. He let the unconscious speak. And what emerged from those dark years became what we now study as some of the most profound Carl Jung teachings about the nature of the human psyche. What Jung discovered is that the psyche has layers we don't access in normal consciousness. And when we begin to individuate, when we start becoming our true selves, those layers start bubbling up, not to destroy us, but to integrate with us, to make us whole. But integration requires dissolution first. The old structures of your personality, the beliefs about who you are, the stories you've told yourself, they all have to loosen. They have to become flexible enough to incorporate what's rising from the depths. And that loosening feels exactly like falling apart. You might be experiencing this as existential dread, lying awake at 3 a.m. questioning everything. The career you built suddenly feels meaningless. The relationship you've invested years in suddenly feels like you're with a stranger. The belief system you've held since childhood suddenly seems like a fairy tale you told yourself to feel safe. This is terrifying, because if none of that is solid, who are you? What's real? What can you trust? And here's what Jung would tell you if he could trust the process. Trust that the psyche knows what it's doing. Because what's happening is not random destruction. It's purposeful deconstruction. Every belief that's crumbling couldn't hold the truth of who you're becoming. Every identity that's dissolving was too small for your expanding consciousness. Jung discovered something else during his confrontation. He found that the unconscious contains not just personal material, not just our repressed memories and rejected parts, but something transpersonal. Something that connects us to all of humanity, all of life, perhaps, to consciousness itself. And when we open to that, it's overwhelming. Because suddenly, you're not just yourself anymore. You're experiencing something vast. You might feel like you're dissolving into the universe. You might feel like the boundaries between you and everything else are disappearing. And your ego, your sense of being a separate self, panics. Because its entire job is to maintain those boundaries. This is what makes the dark night so intense. It's an ego death. Not literal death, but the death of your identification with the small self. The self that thinks it's just this body, just this personality, just this story. That self is dying so that a larger self, what Jung called the capital S, self, can emerge. But there's another layer to this that Jung explored deeply, and it's crucial to understand if you're going to navigate this consciously. Within each of us, regardless of our gender, are both masculine and feminine psychological energies. Jung called the inner feminine the anima, and the inner masculine the animus. For most of your life, you've probably over-identified with one side and rejected the other. If you're socialized as masculine, you may have rejected your emotional, intuitive, receptive nature. If you're socialized as feminine, you may have rejected your assertive, powerful, analytical nature. And now, as you individuate, the rejected side is rising to be integrated. Men suddenly find themselves crying at commercials, feeling things deeply for the first time, unable to push through with sheer willpower anymore. And they think something's wrong with them. They think they're becoming weak. But Jung would say you're becoming whole. You're reclaiming the inner feminine you denied. Women suddenly find themselves speaking truth that makes people uncomfortable, setting boundaries they've never set, accessing a fierce power they were taught to suppress. And they might fear they're becoming too much, too aggressive. But Jung would say you're becoming complete. You're reclaiming the inner masculine you suppressed. This integration of anima and animus is not optional if you want to become fully yourself. Because you can't be whole while rejecting half of your psychological inheritance. And the shift you're experiencing is demanding that you become whole. Nothing less will do? There's a reason for this timing. There's a reason this is happening now and not 10 years ago or 10 years from now. Jung understood that the psyche has its own timeline. It waits until you're ready. Until you have enough strength, enough maturity, enough life experience to handle the transformation without breaking completely. The fact that this is happening now means you're ready, even though you don't feel ready, even though you feel like you're drowning. The psyche doesn't make mistakes about timing. It's not cruel. It's precise. And here's something that might help you endure every spiritual tradition, every wisdom path, every culture that has seriously explored human consciousness knows about this stage. The dark night, the descent into the underworld, the death before rebirth. It's not a bug in the system. It's a feature. It's how transformation works. You cannot become new while clinging to the old. You cannot expand while holding your current shape. You cannot be reborn without dying first. And the dying part, the part you're in now, if you're in the depths, is not the end. It's the middle. It's the most crucial part. Think about the caterpillar. When it enters the chrysalis, it doesn't just sprout wings. It dissolves completely. It becomes liquid. If you cut open a chrysalis at the midpoint, you wouldn't find a half caterpillar, half butterfly. You'd find soup, formless potential. And only from that complete dissolution does the butterfly form. You're in the soup stage, and it's supposed to feel like this. Everything solid becoming liquid. Everything certain becoming questionable. Everything familiar becoming strange. This is not failure. This is the process. Jung also discovered something profound about this stage. He found that the unconscious communicates through symbols and images, not through logical argument. So during the dark night, your dreams become incredibly important. They're showing you what's happening at a level deeper than words. If you're dreaming of houses with hidden rooms, that's your psyche revealing aspects of yourself you haven't discovered yet. If you're dreaming of death, that's not prophetic. It's symbolic. The old you dying. If you're dreaming of water, of drowning, of tsunamis, that's the unconscious rising up, overwhelming your conscious control. These dreams aren't meant to scare you. They're meant to guide you. Jung spent years learning to dialogue with his dreams, to ask them questions, to follow their logic. And in that ancient Carl Jung documentary footage that still exists, you can see in his eyes that he's someone who has been to the depths and returned. He knows something, and what he knows is that the darkness is not the enemy. The darkness is the womb. It's where transformation happens. It's where the new you is being formed in the dissolution of the old you. And the only way through is through. You can't skip this stage. You can't think your way out of it. You can't fix it or solve it. You can only endure it, conscious of what's happening, trusting that the psyche knows where it's leading you. And here's what Jung discovered that changes everything about how you experience this, and the goal of the process is not happiness. It's not comfort. It's not even peace. The goal is wholeness. And sometimes becoming whole requires experiencing the parts of life and of yourself that you've been avoiding. The grief you never let yourself feel. The rage you swallowed to stay likable. The desire you judged as shameful. The fear you pretended didn't exist. All of it is rising now, not to punish you, to integrate with you, to make you complete. This is what quantum consciousness researchers are starting to understand from a scientific angle. That consciousness is not produced by the brain. It's fundamental to reality. And what Jung understood from a psychological angle, that your individual consciousness is connected to a greater field of consciousness. And transformation is about aligning with that greater field. When you're in the dark night, you're being rewired. You're being tuned to a different frequency. And it's uncomfortable because everything in you that's vibrating at the old frequency is being disrupted. Your old coping mechanisms don't work. Your old sources of meaning feel empty. Your old identity feels like a costume you can't wear anymore. But this disruption is purposeful. It's creating space for something new, for a truer version of you, for the self that Jung spent his life trying to help people reach. Not the ego self, the small self, the defended self, but the true self, the whole self, the self that knows it's part of something infinite. You're being initiated, and initiation always involves a death. The death of who you were so that who you truly are can be born. And Jung's great gift to us was showing that we don't have to go through this blindly. We can do it consciously. We can understand what's happening. And that understanding doesn't make it easy, but it makes it meaningful. So if you're in the darkness right now, if everything feels like it's falling apart, if you can't see the way forward, remember this, and the psyche that brought you into this darkness is the same psyche that will bring you out. Trust it, even when you can't trust anything else. Trust that something in you knows the way home. There comes a moment in the transformation process when something shifts. You're still in the mess, still uncertain, still dealing with the dissolution of your old life. But underneath all of that, something new starts to solidify, not going back to what was, moving forward into what's emerging. Jung called this the individuation process, and it's the most important journey you'll ever take. Individuation is a word that sounds abstract, clinical even. But what it means is beautifully simple: becoming who you actually are. Not who your parents wanted you to be. Not who society said you should be. Not who you constructed yourself to be in order to survive. Who you actually are beneath all of that conditioning. And here's what makes this so profound. You can't individuate by trying. You can't force it. You can't follow a formula. Because the true you is not something you create. It's something you uncover. It's already there, buried under layers of adaptation and performance and protection. Your job is not to build a new self. Your job is to excavate the real one. This is why the falling apart is necessary. Every layer that crumbles, every belief that dissolves, every identity that loosens is revealing what was always underneath. You're not becoming someone new. You're becoming someone truer. And as this process continues, you start noticing changes. Subtle at first, then undeniable. You care less about what people think. Not because you're becoming arrogant, but because you're becoming authentic. There's a difference. Arrogance is the ego defending itself. Authenticity is the self expressing itself. You find yourself speaking truth even when it's uncomfortable. Setting boundaries you never set before. Walking away from situations you would have endured in the past. And it's not that you're becoming difficult or uncompromising. You're becoming aligned. And alignment has no patience for what doesn't resonate. Your relationships start to shift. Some people drift away, and it feels sad, but also strangely right. Other people come closer, seeing in you something they recognize in themselves. And new people appear, people who match your emerging frequency. Jung understood that as you individuate, your external world reorganizes itself to reflect your internal transformation. This is where manifestation stops being about vision boards and positive thinking and becomes something much deeper. Real manifestation is not about getting what you want. It's about becoming who you are and then watching reality respond to that. When you're aligned with your true self, you don't have to chase opportunities. They find you, not through magic, but through resonance. One of the most practical tools Jung gave us for this process is working with dreams. Your dreams are not random neural firings. They're communications from the unconscious showing you what you can't see consciously. And the more you individuate, the more important your dreams become. Start writing them down, not to analyze them intellectually, but to dialogue with them. Ask them questions. What are you trying to show me? What part of myself am I not seeing? Follow the feeling of the dream more than the content. Because dreams speak in the language of emotion and symbol, not logic. You might dream of being chased, and the feeling is terror. That's your shadow chasing you, the parts you're still running from. You might dream of flying, and the feeling is liberation. That's yourself showing you what freedom feels like when you stop resisting. You might dream of old houses with new rooms, and the feeling is curiosity. That's your psyche revealing unexplored potential within you. Jung developed a practice he called active imagination. It's a way of consciously engaging with the unconscious while awake. You sit quietly, let your mind relax, and allow images to arise. Then, instead of just watching them, you interact with them. You ask them questions. You listen to their responses, not with your thinking mind, but with your intuitive awareness. This might sound strange, but Jung discovered it's one of the most powerful ways to integrate unconscious material without being overwhelmed by it. You're creating a dialogue between conscious and unconscious, between ego and self. And in that dialogue, transformation happens. There's another concept Jung developed that's crucial for understanding how you move through this process. He called it the transcendent function. It sounds complicated, but it's actually describing something you've experienced many times without knowing what to call it. The transcendent function is what happens when two opposing forces within you, instead of fighting forever, suddenly resolve at a higher level. You've been torn between staying in the relationship and leaving, between keeping the job and quitting, between playing it safe and taking the risk. Your mind goes back and forth endlessly, never reaching resolution. Then one day, seemingly out of nowhere, a third option appears. Not a compromise between the two, not choosing one over the other. A completely new possibility that honors both sides while transcending the conflict. That's the transcendent function. That's the psyche's natural ability to create synthesis from opposition. And the more you individuate, the more you experience this. Instead of being trapped in either or, thinking you start accessing both and solutions, you realize you can be strong and vulnerable, logical and intuitive, independent and connected. The opposites that seem to war within you start dancing together. This is what Jung meant when he talked about holding the tension of opposites. You don't resolve tension by eliminating one side. You hold both sides consciously until something new emerges. And that new thing is always more true, more whole, more aligned with your actual nature than either of the original positions. Now, as these pieces come together, as you integrate more of your shadow, as you balance your inner masculine and feminine, as you learn to dialogue with your unconscious, something profound starts to happen. The self begins to emerge. And this is Jung's greatest discovery. The self with a capital S is not your personality. It's not your ego. It's not even what you think of as you. The self is the totality of who you are, conscious and unconscious, personal and transpersonal. It's your connection to something infinite. Jung sometimes called it the God within, not in a religious sense, but in a psychological one. When the self starts to lead your life instead of the ego, everything changes. Not externally at first, but internally. You feel a profound sense of rightness, even in the middle of difficulty. You have access to wisdom that doesn't come from thinking. You make decisions that your mind can't justify, but that turn out to be exactly right. You experience what Jung called the numinous more frequently. Those moments when you're touched by something sacred, something beyond ordinary reality. It might happen watching a sunset. It might happen in conversation. It might happen in complete stillness. But you feel it. A sense of being part of something vast and meaningful. This is not delusion. This is not spiritual bypassing. This is what happens when you stop living from ego consciousness and start living from self-consciousness. The ego is concerned with survival, with control, with being right. The self is concerned with wholeness, with meaning, with being real. And here's what Jung discovered that's so important, that the more aligned you become with yourself, the more the outer world reflects it. Synchronicities multiply, not just occasionally, but regularly. You think of someone and they call. You need information and a book falls off the shelf. You wonder about a decision and a stranger says something that answers your question. This is not the universe granting wishes. This is something much more profound. Jung called it meaningful coincidence, but it's really about the interconnection of all things. When you're living from your true self, you're in harmony with the deeper patterns of reality. And those patterns become visible through what we call universe signs. The more you pay attention to these signs without forcing meaning onto them, the more you start to trust the process. You realize you're being guided not by some external deity, but by your own deepest wisdom in concert with the intelligence of life itself. And your life starts to reorganize around this understanding. You stop forcing things that don't flow. You stop trying to make happen what isn't meant to be. Not because you've become passive, but because you've become receptive. You're letting life move through you instead of trying to control life. Your work changes. Either you change what you do or how you do it transforms. But it stops feeling like work in the old sense. It feels like expression, like you're here to do this specific thing, and doing it is as natural as breathing. Your relationships deepen or end, but either way, there's less drama, because you're not projecting your unconscious onto others anymore. You're not expecting them to complete you. You're already becoming whole, and from that wholeness, you can meet others authentically. Your relationship with yourself fundamentally shifts. The inner critic that's been running your life starts to quiet. Not because you've silenced it, but because you've integrated it. You understand it was trying to protect you, keep you safe, make you acceptable. But you don't need that protection anymore. You're living from truth, and truth doesn't need defense. This is what Jung meant when he said the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are, not who you wish you were, not who you think you should be, who you actually are. And that person, that self, is more interesting, more capable, more alive than any version you could construct. The shift you've been feeling, the transformation you've been going through, it's been leading you here, to this understanding, to this integration, to the emergence of your true self. And once the self starts to lead, there's no going back. Not because the path behind you is blocked, but because you finally know the way forward. You're not the same person who started watching this. Something has shifted in you, even if you can't articulate exactly what. Jung understood that real transformation doesn't announce itself with trumpets. It happens quietly in the spaces between thoughts, in the recognition of something you've always known but never had words for. If you're paying attention to your inner state right now, you might notice it. A settling, a clarity, not the kind that comes from having all the answers, but the kind that comes from being okay with the questions. This is what it feels like when the psyche completes a cycle of integration, when something that was unconscious becomes conscious, when a new level of awareness anchors itself. This is the shift. Not something happening to you, but something happening through you. You're crossing a threshold that Jung wrote about, where your relationship to yourself and to life fundamentally changes. And once you cross it, you can't unknow what you now know. The individuated life doesn't mean perfect. It doesn't mean you never struggle or doubt or feel pain. It means you're no longer split against yourself. You're no longer at war with your own nature. You're no longer trying to be someone you're not. And from that place of internal coherence, your life begins to reflect it. Not always immediately, not always obviously, but consistently. Opportunities align with who you actually are instead of who you pretended to be. Relationships form with people who see you, not your mask. Work finds you that lets you express your unique gifts instead of conforming to what's expected. This is not positive thinking creating reality. This is alignment creating resonance. When your inner world is coherent, when all the parts of you are working together instead of against each other, you emit a different frequency. And reality, which Jung understood as far more responsive than we typically imagine, responds to that frequency. You start to notice that decisions come more easily, not because you're certain about outcomes, but because you can hear your inner knowing clearly. That voice that's been whispering underneath all the noise your whole life suddenly has volume. And you realize it's been right all along about the big things, about which relationships were wrong, about which paths wouldn't fulfill you, about who you really are beneath the conditioning. But here's what's crucial to understand. This transformation isn't just about you. Jung recognized that the psyche is not isolated. Each individual consciousness is connected to what he called the collective unconscious. And when one person individuates, when one person becomes more conscious, more whole, more authentic, it affects the collective field. You becoming yourself gives permission for others to become themselves. Not through what you say, but through what you embody. People sense it in you, that you're not performing anymore, that you're not seeking their approval, that you're comfortable in your own being. And that permission ripples outward in ways you'll never be able to trace. This is the deeper meaning of transformation. It's not selfish to become who you are. It's one of the most generous things you can do, because a world full of people living from their true self instead of their defended ego would be unrecognizable. The problems we think are unsolvable might dissolve simply through people becoming conscious of their own patterns and projections. Jung spent his life trying to articulate this. That psychological work is spiritual work. That becoming conscious is sacred work. That individuation is not just personal healing, but collective evolution. And he knew that most people would never undertake this journey, would live and die in the persona, never knowing their depths. But you're not most people. The fact that you're here, the fact that something in you has been pushing you toward transformation, even when it hurt, even when it was terrifying, proves that. You're one of the ones willing to wake up, willing to face the shadow, willing to integrate the opposites, willing to become real. And now you're standing in a different place than you were 50 minutes ago. Not because I told you something you didn't know, but because something in you recognized itself in these words. That recognition is the activation. That's the moment synchronicity becomes conscious. The moment you realize the universe has been speaking to you all along through signs you're only now learning to read. The shift is not coming. It's already here. It's been happening through every uncomfortable feeling, every ended relationship, every lost job, every dark night, every moment of doubt. All of it was the psyche preparing you for this, to live as yourself. And living as yourself in a world that rewards conformity is revolutionary. It's not easy. There will be moments you're tempted to put the mask back on, to go back to sleep, to pretend you don't know what you now know. But you can't. Once you've tasted authenticity, performance becomes unbearable. So what do you do now? You keep listening. You keep paying attention to your dreams. You keep noticing synchronicities. You keep trusting the pull toward what's authentic and the resistance toward what's false. You keep integrating shadow. You keep balancing your inner opposites. You keep following the path of individuation, knowing it's lifelong, knowing it deepens rather than completes. And you remember what Jung understood, that you're not doing this alone. The self is guiding you. The collective unconscious is supporting you. The archetypes are working through you. And the universe itself, in ways that quantum consciousness is only beginning to understand, is responding to your emergence. This is your new timeline. Not a future possibility, but a present reality. You're already living it. Every choice you make from alignment instead of fear. Every moment you honor your truth instead of seeking approval. Every time you trust your inner knowing instead of outsourcing authority. You're already in it. The old timeline was about survival. This new timeline is about being fully alive. The old timeline was about fitting in. This new timeline is about standing in your uniqueness. The old timeline was about achieving. This new timeline is about becoming. And becoming is not a destination. It's the journey itself. Jung knew this. That's why he called it individuation, a process, not individuated a state. You don't arrive and stop growing. You keep unfolding, keep discovering new layers, keep integrating new aspects of the infinite self that you are. So if you feel called to mark this moment, to acknowledge that something has shifted, go to the comments and write, "I am becoming who I always was." Not for me, not for anyone else, for yourself, as a declaration to your own psyche that you're ready, that you're willing, that you're saying yes to the transformation. Because the universe didn't make a mistake with you. Your struggles weren't punishments. Your sensitivity wasn't weakness. Your differences weren't flaws. They were all preparation for this moment. When you finally understand that you don't need to be fixed. You need to be freed. Freed to be exactly who you are. Jung devoted his life to showing us the way. He mapped the terrain of the unconscious. He identified the archetypes. He explained the shadow and the anima and the animus and the self. He gave us the language of synchronicity and individuation. He showed us that psychological work is spiritual work, that becoming conscious is the great task of being human. And now you have a choice. You can take what you've heard and let it fade back into the unconscious, becoming just another interesting idea you once encountered. Or you can let it activate something in you. Let it be the confirmation you've been waiting for that what you're experiencing is real, is meaningful, is leading you somewhere essential. The shift has begun, not when you finish this video. It began the moment you felt called to watch it. Synchronicity brought you here. Your own self, the deeper intelligence within you, arranged this encounter. And if you felt even a flicker of recognition in these words, even a moment of yes, that's true, that's your psyche confirming it, you're ready. You've been ready. That's why the universe chose you to see this now, before the shift becomes so visible in your outer life that you can't deny it. You needed the framework first, the understanding, the permission to trust what's unfolding. So trust it. Trust the process Jung mapped so carefully. Trust your dreams and your synchronicities and your inner knowing. Trust that what's falling away needed to fall away. Trust that what's emerging is your truth. Trust that you're not alone in this, that something vast and ancient and wise is guiding you home to yourself. This is not the end of anything. This is the beginning. The beginning of living from your true self instead of your false persona. The beginning of integrating your shadow instead of projecting it. The beginning of balancing your inner masculine and feminine instead of rejecting half of yourself. The beginning of being conscious instead of just getting by. Welcome to your actual life. The one you were always meant to live. The one Jung knew was possible for any human willing to do the work of becoming real. You're here now. The shift is yours. Step into it fully. Your new timeline is waiting for you to claim it.